Well, good evening. Welcome back to the Thai Expat Daily Show. Today is Tuesday, the 2nd of January 2024, and delighted you've been able to tune in yet again for another show. Now, before we do get started, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you already haven't, and do hit that notification bell so that YouTube will let you know when the next available podcast or live stream is up and going. So back on the live stream again tonight, and we have about 4 stories to bring to you. I believe I'm live streaming, well, because I can see myself on my phone. It's the only way I can figure it out right now, because YouTube live stream on where I look through is showing me a blank screen, but I do see it on my phone, so I am still there. So we are going to jump into, we have 4 stories, as I said, coming to you today from Thailand, and a little bit look back on the top stories from last year as well. But firstly, before we do any of that, I wanted to, what I'm going to do on every show is look at the traffic death numbers and accidents here on the road each and every day, because, well, to be honest with you, it's worth talking about and having a quick look. So today, as many people may know, I use a website called thairsc.com, and we'll actually show it to you there. Okay, as you can probably see it on the screen now. So today, the 2nd of January, up until, 7:02 now, we have had 49 people die on the roads today, with 2,526 deaths on the road. And the total for 2024, so for the first 2 days of the year, is 162 people passing away on the roads, and close to 5,634 injuries. It's a shocking amount already for 2 days of the year. I mean, it's pretty horrendous. Again, we look today, 75% men and 24% female, and again 86% on motorbikes, with 14% on cars. And the other one they don't know is normally if it's a pedestrian that's died from an accident. So again, very, very poor. If you see the times of the deaths over the last, 18 hours, if you see here, you can see that we've had 2 in the morning, 15, but also interesting enough here, we've quite a lot between the hours of 4 and 10, 11 at night. So there's still a lot of deaths out there, and the age of the people, 25 up to 60 is about the average age. So yeah, it's very, very, very concerning. But we'll move back to the show. As I say to everybody, when you go on the roads here in Thailand, always take care, always be aware. Don't be counting on somebody else to look after you. Look after yourself on the road, because the way people drive here, nobody else cares. But we'll jump into the first story, and it's kind of an interesting story that's just developed today. It's in relation to visas for Chinese and visas for Thais at the moment as well. And 212 Roger, hello, Sawadee Krub, nice to see you too. So we'll jump into the first story. Thai and Chinese to travel visa free starting March 1st. Starting from March 1st, a new agreement between Thailand and China will eliminate the need for visas for travellers from both countries, according to the Thai Prime Minister. The mutual agreement reflects an upgrade in the relationship between the two nations. The Thai authorities will be notified to prepare for the implementation of these new travel regulations. Now, previously, Thailand had waived tourist fee requirements for Chinese visitors to boost tourism. However, this privilege was set to end after February. Prime Minister Thavisin emphasised that the upcoming waiver signifies the importance of the Thai passport on the international stage. He mentioned that in response to criticism about Thailand not being deemed important to China, discussions were held to waive visas for Thai passport holders. The recent announcement brings positive news of a permanent visa waiver, replacing the temporary arrangements that were in place. So this is generally actually quite good news, I guess, if you're Thai and you want to visit China, because currently you would have to apply for a visa at the embassy in Bangkok. But I do believe they have a consulate here in Phuket as well. I think one of the promises that the Prime Minister made when he got into office was that he was going to ensure that the Thai passport could go to other countries visa free. He wanted to make it a more important passport than it is. Of course, we know the list of passports and what the top ones in the world are and how many visa frees you can get to. And Thailand ranks quite down in that list. So he had a vision to ensure that Thai passport holders could go to more countries visa free, and I guess this is the first on the list, China. It'll probably also depend how Thai people behave when they go to China. Do they go there just for holidays? Are they abusing it to try work, like as we see in Korea? And then again, also Chinese people coming to Thailand. We've seen over the past year or two a serious kind of crime issue with Chinese people coming here, kidnappings, murders, mafia type behavior. So will this increase now that they have the visa free into Thailand? Only time will tell. But I'd love to know your opinion about it, either in the comment section or in the live stream as well. So we're going to move on to the next story, and it's in relation to airfares. And good news domestically, but domestic airfares are expected to fall this year. Airfares are anticipated to gradually decrease in the upcoming year, as reports by the Civil Aviation Authority of Thailand. This expectation is attributed to the rise in licensed airlines and an increased number of aircraft. The CAT revealed that 8 airlines recently obtained air operator licenses from the Transport Ministry, with plans to operate a total of 60 airplanes in 2024. Of the 8 airlines, 5 are domestic carriers, namely Easy Airlines, Pattaya Airways, P80 Air, Really Cool Airlines, and Siam Seaplane. The CAT acknowledged the necessity for airlines to make profits to sustain flights, even if those flights generate marginal profits, as long as ticketed prices adhere to the authorities' set ceiling prices. The CAT emphasised that passengers could secure cheaper flights by booking tickets early. It explained that airlines had downsized various aspects during the COVID-19 pandemic for survival, and the current demand for air travel surpasses supply, leading to a 17% global increase in airfares. Additionally, the CAT noted that airfares in the country increased in part due to the cessation of a reduction in jet fuel tax in July. So I don't know if anybody's been traveling around Thailand recently, but actually the price of airfares has significantly increased. I've been recently pricing heading up to Chiang Mai, for a few days in January, February and March, and the cheapest airfare I could get was on actually Air Asia, and it was coming in at 6,000 or 7,000. Now I think even before COVID that price would have been about 3,000 or 4,000. So it has significantly jumped. Now also about international airlines, the same thing is going on here. They've all cut their services, and airlines have created demand by not having enough flights on to cater for the amount of people who want to fly. And in essence then they've increased the price. And us, like fools, of course, we're all buying into this by paying these fares and continuing to travel. Of course we need to go places, but this is exactly what's happened over the last couple of years since we've come out of the COVID pandemic. The pandemic has been used basically, especially by airlines, to cut their costs, increase their fares, reduce how many flights they have, and charge us excessively more money, and still make massive amounts of profit. So that has been going on within the airline industry, international and domestic flights here. I read an interesting article on another website in relation to international airfares, because they're still quite expensive compared to pre-pandemic 2020 and whatnot. They say there may be a decrease in international fares mid-2024, but it will not be anything to jump around about and get joyous over. But hopefully at least the domestic airfares in Thailand will come down. And for people who are wondering about domestic airfares, they actually do have a level they can go to, and they cannot surpass that. So I saw a lot of people complaining over Christmas about the price of airfares to Phuket and other parts of Thailand. And one of the things was the government says, well, actually there's a table and as long as they don't go over that table, as long as they don't go over the minimum fares and the maximum, then they're okay. And they hadn't actually done that, which is why they didn't get in particularly any trouble. But this idea that if you book well in advance, you'll secure a cheaper flight, not 100% true, especially at the moment with airfares here in Thailand. But hopefully with more airlines coming on board, things will hopefully get a little bit cheaper for the traveller. Now the next story of the day, and this is more I wanted to do a 2023 top stories, and we're going to just do kind of a story a day rather than a whole list of them. So today's story is we're going to talk about the trail of cyanide leads to the country's first suspected female serial killer. So this was a huge story here in Thailand in 2023. But Srettha Sadawat, dubbed the cyanide by Thai media, has been implicated as Thailand's first suspected female serial killer, with evidence suggesting she murdered at least 14 victims, including her former husband, between 2015 and 2023. The motive appears to be financial gain. Srettha's case has gone to court, implicating her former husband and lawyer in evidence tampering and aiding her evasion of punishment. If convicted, she could face the death penalty. The shocking discovery began with Srettha's arrest for suspicion of poisoning a friend, leading to the revelation that more than 10 close acquaintances had died suddenly after spending time with her. The victims, including her common-law husband and female police officers, were suspected to have been poisoned for valuables or to escape deaths. The alleged poisonings date back to 2015, with cyanide ordered online by Srettha being the murder weapon. CCTV footage showed Srettha's unusual behaviour at the scene of one of the victims' deaths raised suspicions leading to her arrest. Even those close to her, like Kantima Pesarad, who lent her money, were unaware of her actions until media reports surfaced. Srettha's modus operandi involved giving victims cyanide-laced substances, often disguised as herbal remedies. Police have tightened controls on cyanide following this case. Authorities emphasised the need for vigilance, as cyanide, being water-soluble and odourless, can easily be slipped into drinks without detection, causing rapid death by interfering with the body's oxygen utilisation. And this story went very viral towards kind of the middle of the year and towards the end of the year. And in essence, she was caught on camera. I think it was along a pier somewhere, and her behaviour was very suspect. And I think one of the women died after this, and this is how they came to know about her. And it was a very interesting story. Thailand's first, well, who knows the first, or maybe it could be more before that, but the first one that's been caught serial killer. So that was one of the top stories in 2023. Hello, Bushman UK. Nice to see you here. I cannot see your comment because there's something covering it on my screen. But anyway, we'll move on to the next and final story of the day, which involves Thailand's minimum wage. And I have a bit of a poll running there if anybody wants to vote on it. Should Thailand have a set minimum wage? Because here in Thailand, the minimum wage depends on which province you work in. And we'll have a quick look at that. We'll have a quick look at the Phua Thai's promise pre-election and what they've actually done and what they can't actually do too. So the minimum wage is to be hiked by around 2.4%. And this was as of yesterday. So Thailand's daily minimum wage is set to increase nationwide in the range of 330 to 370 baht per day now, according to the province, the Labour Ministry said. The tri-party committee on minimum wage, comprising of representatives of employers, employees and the government sector, met over the course of the last month to finalise the details of the minimum wage adjustment across 77 provinces. The new rates were submitted to the cabinet, and they took effect yesterday. Labour Minister Pyra Chuksetan, who chaired the meeting, said the new daily minimum wage by province from highest to lowest are as follows. I'll just go through a couple of the kind of more prominent areas. So Phuket is at the top of the list in terms of minimum wage. So as I said, every province nearly has a different minimum wage, which can get a bit confusing. But then that's why I guess people would be maybe going to different provinces because they know you're going to get a higher minimum wage there. So Phuket is at the top of the list at 370 baht per day. Also per day, not per hour, per day. And that's about $10.80 per day. Now Bangkok and a few other places surrounding Bangkok, 363 baht per day. That's about $10.68. Chonburi and Rayong, so Chonburi where you'd have a lot of hotels, a lot of tourism, 361 baht per day, 10.56. On the list, Chiang Mai, we'd all know that, Ayutthaya and places like this, 350 baht per day, $10.24. And Krabi, 347 baht per day. Phaya province, another province with an awful lot of hotels in it. a significant amount of tourism. And Pattaya is generally known for its tourism. 345 baht per day, just $10 a day. And we'll go down, way down on the list. The bottom of the list, the bottom provinces who are making basically the least amount, 330 baht per day, that's $9.65 per day. And they got an increase of 2 baht per day in this increase by this tri-party committee. The Pheu Thai-led government had previously promised to raise the minimum wage to 400 baht per day as of yesterday, as a New Year's gift for the workers nationwide. However, in October, the Labour Ministry said this was unlikely to happen after considering several factors, including the inflation rate. So what happened here was, and we'll kind of go back to the beginning, Pheu Thai in their election manifesto promised 600 baht per day within the first 4 years of being in office. So by the end of their 4 years, the minimum wage in Thailand would be 600 baht per day. That was the promise by them. Actually, the Move Forward Party promised, I think it was 650 baht, so they were even higher up. But nevertheless, Move Forward did not get into government, so that doesn't particularly matter. And then what happened, I'll get back to Gordon. I'll come back to the comments that are in the thing. We'll get back to them at the end, okay? And we'll get back to you at the end of them. I'll just quickly go through this story anyway. Nevertheless, so they had promised 600 baht at the end of the 4 years. So that's fine. I guess space it out over 4 years. You can't have a huge drop from 354 baht, which was the highest minimum wage at the time, up to 600. That would be a lot, okay, for any employer per day. So what they did was they said, well, in January 1st, we're increase it to 400, but that's our plan. That's what they said they're going to do. And unfortunately, the government actually have no power to increase the minimum wage here in Thailand based on how the constitution's written and the way it's formulated. It's a committee that decides how much it'll be increased by. So what actually happened was they went through it. They say it's made up of employers, employees, and people from the government sector and the government, but it's not really the government. And the interesting thing is, when they say representative employees, who are they talking about? Thailand has some unions, but less than 2% of the workforce of Thailand is represented by unions. So when they talk about who's deciding this and they say there's representative employees there, I'd be very interested to know who they're actually talking about. And to me, that's, a little interesting one there. Who are they talking about? I'm pretty sure there's lots of employers at the table, and I'm pretty sure they're making their point as to how much we'd like to see, or how much we wouldn't like to see the minimum wage increased. So they came out with the figures and they said, well, the southernmost provinces on the Malaysian border, they're going to get the least increase. So 2 baht per day, over a month, that's 60 baht. I mean, what's that going to buy you? And Phuket, which has a greater output in terms of, hotels and the economy itself, will get the highest amount. And that was an increase of just 16 baht per day. And you think, that's it. The Prime Minister seemed a bit annoyed and he sent it back and he said, I'd like you to take a look at this again. And they came back and said, no, that's how we're going to do it. So actually what it turned out is that the government have no power to change any of this. So the the manifesto during the election was all complete nonsense. The same as the Move Forward Party as well. By saying that we're going to increase it, it's also more nonsense than what they've been doing. So there's no real power for any political party to say we're going to increase the minimum wage in the country. Now, do employees deserve an increase? Absolutely. Now, what they talk about is, well, if we increase it to 400 baht per day, jobs will be lost and, people will lose their jobs and some people will gain, of course. But I think when you come to certain industries as well, I think certain industries, this should be looked at maybe in a little bit of a different way. You have, for example, the hotel industry in Thailand, which does very, very well from foreign tourism. We see the numbers, 27 million visitors this year. Now they're paying, the lower end of staff, let's say room boys, roommates, gardeners, whatever, the minimum wage. But yet they're making fortunes of money based off the fact that they charge European room rates. That's what they do, especially many of these hotels you'll find in Phuket and other provinces who have let's say, contracts with all these big European agents. They're selling at European rates, and they're operating at Thai, at Thai standards in terms of electricity costs, insurance costs, labor costs, and stuff like this. So they can afford to take this little hit to give more to their staff, and then their profits maybe will go down a little bit, or they can obviously pass it on to the customer as well. But they don't seem to want to do any of that. So what happens is that at the end of the day, the only person who suffers really in all of this is the employee. And that is probably the person who's not represented at the table when these negotiations are going on. And it's a terrible shame, because I think, being paid $10 a day, we're not talking an hour, we're talking a day, with a minimum wage of, whatever it turns out at $10 a day multiplied 30, $300 a month. For a lot of people, that's a very difficult salary to live on. And you can understand why there's so much debt here in Thailand. And when you make promises during the election to get votes, and you clearly cannot fulfill those promises, then I think questions need to be asked of the government and what they were doing, promising all this during the election. Now they talk about maybe they'll increase it again in March or April to 400. Let's be honest, if they increased it now. They're not going to increase it again in 3 or 4 months. So I think the Thai people are getting a little bit shafted from the government here, and this tri-party committee that's made up of, they don't even say who it's made up of. They're just so vague about it. And I think it is highly unfair on the Thai people. But I'd love to know what you think. Do you think there should be, more minimum wage for staff working here in Thailand? Because for me, I think there should be. I think staff should be paid a hell of a lot more in this country than they are. And especially when you see these big companies like CP and all these companies, how much money they do generate and the soaring profits they have, but yet their staff are all paid on the minimum. And trust me, many of these companies pay the minimum wage. That's what they pay. They pay the minimum of everything. They pay the minimum wage. They pay the minimum amount of holidays they have to, the minimum amount of public holidays they have to. This is what they do, and they're very, very good at doing it. And then they make the employee feel like, well, look, we've given all this to you now, we expect complete loyalty, when you're giving them the bare minimum. And I think it's highly unfair. And I think things should be changing in favor of the employee here. I'm very surprised that there's not unions, particularly in hotel industries and stuff like that, that I think is very appropriate for it. But there doesn't seem to be. And I'd love to know why there's no unions here in Thailand too. But maybe one of my lovely listeners out there could help me out with an answer to that. We'll have a quick look down there in the comments section, as we are still live. 21 Roger, hello, and hello back to you. Eva Air Bangkok prices sneaking again. They loved, I've been looking at flights for the last period of time, because Bushman UK, I would be flying, thinking if I'm going to go somewhere, I'd be flying maybe back home to Ireland for the yearly trip. Or I've been looking at maybe going to Hong Kong or somewhere like that as well. But the prices of flights have significantly compared to in the past when I've purchased them. It's very hard to pay sometimes double the price compared to what you would have paid a number of years ago. And of course, they're blaming COVID for all of that. Gordon Duncan, we also have had a lot of scams with Chinese coming to Thailand. Also, once a week, I get a phone call. Oh, mate, you get once a week. I'm getting about 2 or 3 a day now. There's a very interesting one keeps going on WhatsApp. It's where you get a message saying that we're from some company we're a job hunter, and we'd like to share your details with something or other. And there are always these American numbers, and it all comes off very professional until you ask questions like, where did you get my number from? What job is this? And they suddenly can't answer them. But also my wife gets an awful lot of phone. I have a rule of thumb now. If I don't recognize the number, or I'm not expecting a Lazada or Shopee delivery, that's the only time I won't answer the phone then, if I don't recognize it, because there's just too many scams out there. And you can say the wrong thing slightly, and the next minute you could be out of a bit of money. Henry Kim, hello Henry, how are you? Love your videos, keep it with. Thank you Henry, very appreciate your comments as always. And Gordon, thank you for the 200 baht, I greatly appreciate that. But anyway guys, that's it for tonight. Well, we got 26 minutes done, and it seems to be still streaming. I'm actually quite surprised about that. But nevertheless, guys, that's it for this evening. Don't forget to have a look at the poll up there. I'll let it run for a little bit longer. Do you think there should be a set minimum wage across the country rather than this, divided up in different provinces based on your output? Love to know your comment about that on the poll. Also, anything else you want to talk about from this show, hit me up in the chat or the comment section after this video is done. It'll obviously be uploaded and then run as a video for the rest of the day. Anyway, guys, thanks as usual. Thanks again as usual for tuning in. We'll see you again tomorrow night for the 3rd of January show. Stay safe out there. Have a great day. And thanks again, guys.